plus I is plus 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 I both are giving the same values, but based on the requirements we have used. So before executing the loop or in between the statements or after the execution of the loop, on the places only the values will be different. So for the C programming, you can use the Java Day3 platform also. It is one user-friendly platform, and it will be giving the easy examples to understand the concepts. And it's using some flow charts and then using line-by-line explanations also. Okay. For your learning purpose, you just to use the Java Day3. So next topic is an array.
Arrays are based on arrays are
not as far just only a standard, just the basics of it.
Sir, can you do some more problems?
You want more problems?
Like 1 or 2 problems.
Okay.
Related to the from real time examples.
For real time purposes, okay.
Zero next. Zero నుంచి స్టార్ట్ అయ్యి 10 numbers additionally so మనం zero తీస్తే ఆ ఎన్ని ఉంటుంది డిస్ట్రిబ్యూషన్ ఆన్సర్ జీరో
Okay, sir, we can write the program like that. Here, just take the first gear values. We can use the conditions of if else switch case combination of that using the while loop also. Okay. So, for example, now we can take the three variables. The gear value, gear variable, PS as the vehicle speed, RPM as the engine RPM. So, the gear value we can take from the user input. So, now we can do the user input as a 1. The gear value is a 1, so automatically we need to print the vehicle speed as a 1 to 20. As the same thing, the RPM also we need to print as a 1 to 2000, like that. And then finally stop it at that 1 to 20 and then 1 to 2000. For this increment of values, we can use the while loop or for loop or do while loop is not sufficient. We can take the help of while loop or the for loop. Okay. So based on our user input, the values we need to increase it. The two variable values will need to be increased with the different kind of values. Vehicle speed as a 1 to 20, and then RPM as a 1 to 2000. We need to print on it our exit output statement. Is it fine, sir?
One doubt, sir. Generally, we write while of 1 and we will write the statement.
Okay, sir. Okay, so okay, we can check it one by one. So we can just take the RPM only. So whenever you can give the user input 1, we need to print the value of 1 to 2000 and need to stop on up to 2000. Okay, using while loop. Okay, is it possible? Using the switch case, for if else switch case for checking the condition of gear value is 1 or not. So after the condition satisfied, instead of the if else or instead of the switch case, you can write the while or for loop or the while loop. Anything you can use it, and then you need to print the values from 1 to 2000. So it is like a gear shift values. So if you can access this program means, if we can programmatically we can control the devices means the engine RPM will not move for more than 2000. It will be safety purposes for our transmission system. Like that, you can see. Got my point?
What is the difference between while of 1 and we write the statements and conditions?
Yes, you can take just two variables. So for the gear variable, initially you can declare the integer of gear and then comma RPM. So for the gear, you can enter the gear using the scanf to getting the gear values. After getting the scanf, you can write the if else statement. If gear value is equal to 1, or using switch case, if gear value 1 means using the case value 1. So instead of the case, you can write the while loop. So in that while, you can declare from the I value is equal to 1, and then the condition I less than or is equal to 2000, which means you can increment the value 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, or else I plus plus. You can mention it. So print the I values. That's the concept. Using the slash d for the decide output like that. It is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm using just a inference condition. So you can just follow this way. You can declare two variables and using scanner for getting RPM. Then you can write the condition for the gear after checking the condition for RPM. So it will be put the RPM value. Else if you are enter the gear value is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 means it will be showing that the 20% statement of gear is out of value. Also invalid gear value. Like that you can do the output. So it is one of the way. If you are going to work with the switch case means you can change the condition as per that. You can write the case values and the default values. Taken the RPM less than or equal to 2000. It is our requirement. So you can directly introduce 2000. So if you have added more gear values like gear 2 means we can add the else if statement. Else if the gear value is equal to 2 means we can write it for that same while loop and then we can increase the RPM value. Control C and C. And write again RPM up to 4000 we can mention it. So now we can enter the gear value as 2 means the RPM value will be incremented up to 4000, which means we are giving the possibilities to increase the RPM value up to 4000. Same like that one we can increase for the gear 3, gear 4 using the else if statement. So instead of using the if else, you can using the switch case. Switch case means you can mention again case 1 for gear 1, case 2 for gear 2 using the same concept. Using that break values, using break you can stop the case also. Okay? Is it fine? So the next topic is that array.
So ఇక్కడ I equals to 200 equals
So array is nothing but it is called as a collection of elements. It can store more than one elements. In previous day as one way. Yes. So previously as one variable we are able to store only one number. For example, integer of a means we can store only the number of 50 or the 500 on the particular values. We are not able to store the more than one values. So using of array we can store more than of one values. Like so integer of a is equal to 10. It is a normal variable declaration. So the array declaration we can declare integer of a, so it is called as a array declaration. We need to use in the square brackets. So it is mentioned the size of the array. So size of the array means nothing but how many values, how many elements we need to store inside of this variable. For example, we can mention 3 means we are able to store 1, 2, 3 elements. You are not able to store more than 3 elements. If you can store the elements, it is showing like when are you using the form specified percentage D or using that axis index values, it will be showing the power page values or any other values. Okay. Or else if you mention it is an empty array means we can store any values. If you have not mentioned the size of the array, you can store any values, which means uncountable values. For how many values you need to, how many elements you need to store inside of that array data type, you can use it. Okay. So now we are going to access with the help of for loop. So these are the places the for loop will be plays a major role because we are using that 10 elements. So data type variable array size, it is the syntax of array, it is the size of array. It is the array declaration. So and then now we have declared it is the array of 5 means we are able to store 5 elements. So we can separate it by commas. So each elements we need to separate it by commas and then using that type braces. Okay. So then how we are going to access this means it will be taken from this index values. So if we are going to access the value, for example, you need to print the only particular values. For example, this 3 only you need to print on this elements means we can start with the index value. It is the starts of index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you have the 5 elements means it starts with the 0 index value. So for using the print of double quotes percentage d of, you can access the array of 0 means it will be printing the value of 1. If you want to print the value of 5 means you can using the index number of 4. Okay. So for this array concept only we need to follow the index values. So based on the index values we need to print any values or using scanf means store any values. I just explain this example. Okay, nothing but here they are taking the variable name as a marks, they are going to store the 5 marks values, which means the candidates getting the 5 subjects marks, so they can store as a name of here you can using the candidates names or students name, you can store as well the order subject 1, subject 2, like 3. So the marks of index 0 means it's mentioning as the first value of the indexer. So we can directly initialize the values like that, or else we can using that method. Marks of 5 is equal to using the square brackets, sorry, square braces and then 80. So we can declare the variable and initialize at the same way also. There is also not an issue. But for our understanding purpose, they mention like the individual index values, so index of 0, index of 1, index of 2, like that. So afterwards, using the for loop to print the values. So we need to print the array values of 5 elements means we need to use the 5 printf statements. Percentage d of marks 1 and then marks 2, marks 3 like that. So instead of that, they are using the help of for loop. So here you can see the for loop we can mention as the marks array of I. So in this I place we are going to increment as the values as 0, 1, 2, 3 like that. Increment the index values 0, 1, 2, 3 like that. So now just waiting on this. So it is printed the element values. So same like the concept of for loop. So we are going to execute the single statement for the multiple times. We can take the help of looping concept. With the help of that array concept also. In the array concept, the help of for loop is a very mandatory thing. So whenever we are working with that array concept, without for loop, we are not able to work with that because it is the one easiest method to print or store the values in that array. Okay, so it is called as a one-dimensional array. So here we just mentioned that one side of values like one row values only. So in the one more method is a 2D array, two-dimensional array. We can mention as the rows and then columns also. Okay. We just try this one 1D element. If it's fine, means we can move for the 2D element. Okay, shall we move for 2D array? So the 2-dimensional array. So we can initially 1-dimensional array we just mention the rows only. So here we can mention the rows and then columns. So we can separate it by the individual rows values and then individual column values 1, 2, 3. It is not a specific thing. We can directly also mention it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you can mention with the 2D array, means it is automatically taken as the index of it is the 0 cross 0, it is the 0 cross 1, like that here, so that we explained 0 cross 0, 0 cross 1, 0 cross 2. But as per the standardized format, we can mention the individual rows as a single brackets. We need to mention it. If you are not mentioning also, not an issue, it will be taking the index value of 0 cross 0, 0 cross 1. So in the previously we just accessing the value of marks of 0 only. But here we need to access it the 0 of 0 marks, 0 of 0. So that we need to use one more formula. So we can say okay. So how it works means, so the first enter into the for loop for that rows values. The row value is initially getting entered as a 0. So which means accessing the index of 0. So the 0 will be again incremented to the enter to the next for loop. The j value is a 0 for the column accessing. So we need to get the value of 0 cross 0. So that the 0 I values will be entered like a 0 and the j value will be entered as a 0. So the 0 cross 0 values will be printed here first the value of 1. So afterwards the j, whenever we are getting the false of this statement, afterwards only it is going to increment the next for loop. So it is not getting the false statement. Again it is incremented the value is 0 to 1. So the I value is 0 only, the j value is incremented as a 1. So 0 plus 1 incremented as a 2, which means getting the value of 0 plus 1 index value. So the same way that it is incremented up to 2, the whenever getting the 3, the condition will be false. Afterwards it is having entered to increment the value of 5. So now I value is 1. So again j value is set as j is equal to 0. So I of 0, 1 of 0 and then 1 of 1 of 2 values entered. I am using slash and for like the matrix formation. It is also not mandatory. So you are not giving this means it will print like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So it is the concept of 2D array, 2-dimensional array. So I think most probably afterwards we can start a technical program today. So then some of that stuff are missing. Please inform them to post.
Sir, it is 3 days is for C. Better to start tomorrow.
Okay. So sir, see having no sir, what I have see having more open source platforms to learn. If you have any doubts, we also need to clear video references. As knowledge technical ones, we don't have any video references for this topic.
Technical, going to give introduction or any kind of answer?
No sir, after moments I can start at CAN protocol. So definition of CAN protocol, then the data structure, error handling document, these kind of things I will cover. Tomorrow onwards we can check the topic for the mini project, remote key lesson.
Theoretical oriented or practical?
First we can start with theory.
After theory or this is
So we are going for the functions. So functions is nothing but we can create one box and we can put the code for use the code again and again. So what we did in the for loop executing the same code. So same like that we are going to execute the same code and we can put it as a box. The box is called as a function. So the functions we have different aspects. So we can passing arguments and then we can get the return value. We can passing arguments without getting return value. We can just using the functions without arguments, without return values. We can just using the passing all parameters and then we can get the return values and then without return values. Okay, it is just like our main function. Yes. So here you can call as the int main function. So these are inbuilt functions. We are able to write two types of functions using two inbuilt functions. You can use the user defined functions also. So that inbuilt library functions are nothing but the printf functions, scanf functions, so on using some keywords for loop, for while. So these are all inbuilt library functions. So now we are going to write a user defined functions. What our requirement, based on our requirement, we can write the functions, we can just call it. So it is called as a call by value and then call by reference. Two types of functions are available. Okay. So just to explain a function concept. For example, now we are going to swap the variables integer of a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20 means with the help of temporary variable we can swap in terms of a is equal to b is equal to 10 and then we have print of that percentage d of a comma b. So it is the actual programming, so without using any functions. So the functions means we can write the programming outside of the main functions. So these three lines are the common and we are going to execute for any values based on the input. So the same thing we can write it. For example, the function is called as a swap. So we need to give the variable name. So then we need to declare the return output value data type. So for like it is an integer means we can mention it is an int swap. We need to mention it is a function means using the brackets. So it is called as the syntax of functions. We are not able to write a function inside of the main function. We are able to write a function outside of the main function. That is the proper way. Okay, so that is called as we can write a function outside of the main function. So we can get it by the call by value or call by reference based on your parameters. So if you can pass in any arguments or parameters values, based on the value we can call it as using the functions. Okay. So we just need to declare data type and declare variable using the function open and then close brackets. Here you will be using any statements for the call by reference and then call by values. Okay. So here you can just write the program for the using functions to swap two variables. So it is the actual syntax structure file into main function and then open brackets, close brackets. So out of the main function we are going to write the swap function. We can write temp is equal to a is equal to b is equal to 10. Print of terms of percentage d comma a comma b. So it is the actual form of a swap two variables. So here we need to declare the variables of integer a comma b comma 10. Okay, so here we can just call the function swap. That's enough. So instead of the main function, you can just call the swap function. But here we are not mentioning any values, the value of a, b. So it is one kind of method. Here you can mention 10, here you can mention 20. So now we can swap the variables of b value as at 10, a value as at 20. Like that. So now you can call means directly giving the value of 10, 20. But our requirement is we need to give the user input. So based on our user values, we need to swap the values so that they are using that arguments. So that is nothing but in this bracket you can mention as a x comma y any variables. You can using any variables for the arguments. Okay. So before going there, we just check with an empty function now. In program only you can check it. If it is working, means we can move to the arguments. So just we can write in swap function integer of is equal to Okay, so here I can explain it is just calling of functions only, it is not called by any value or called by any reference, it's just a call of function only. It is calling the only swap function, we write the swap function. So we can write it from before main function also possible or after main function also possible, but we can write outside of the main function. So some of the compilers would request to mention the functions also in top, or which means initially we need to mention the variables. Integer of swap variable we are going to use for the functions. So that initially declared for the into swap function semicolon. If you are directly writing that function before main function, means it is no need. Okay. So just it is called the swap function. What are the variables values we can mention in that function? It will be directly executed. Okay. So it is called as a function call function call. Okay.
Sir, yes, you have to define a loop globally out of way.
What's that?
The swap function is defined out of way, right?
Yes, sir.
So we will execute first. Swap function.
So no, sir, it is just like a declaration of function.
Here also you have declared also into swap.
No, sir. Here I just give the statement for the function. Here I just declare that closed with that semicolon. So end of the line. I just declare swap function. But here I am not mentioning like that. I just giving the statement for the swap function. I am not closing with that semicolon.
But if the compiler starts executing it from main.
No. Starts from the first line hash input, standard input, output. After taking the declaration. After that, taking that declaration of swap function. So now the programming understand we have declared one function.
Okay.
So variable of swap we have declared one function. Afterwards it's entered to the main function. In the main function we called the swap function. So in the swap we can write after the main function also possible or before the main function also possible. But most of the coders, not most of the, everyone would like to write the functions after the main function. Because previously they are using some global variables, some of the people using the constant values and these kind of things, so that they are not confusing them before main function. So whenever we can read the code, if the main function called the swap function, so directly we can search it for the swap function. So that is the after main function, it is easy to read the code also.
Okay, like there are two types of function as
Yes, sir.
Call by value,
call by reference. Now I just give the function call only. We are just calling the function, not by any value, not by any reference. So afterwards I will explain here we can passing some values, passing some parameters. Afterwards you will. I just
if that function globally is not mentioned, error will come.
Yes, sir. It will not sometimes take not taken that function because we are not mentioning you can declare one function. Like that. Same like what we have declared for the variable, same concept we can follow for functions. So this kind of the functions where we are used means using that remote keyless entry. So the remote keyless entry by pressing the lock button means it's just setting the RF frequency. So after it's reaching directly calling the whenever you can use the push button of lock, so directly getting the lock function. So in our coding point. So in the easy use we have flashing with some coding. So coding has different between lock function, unlock function, tailgate function. So whenever getting the value of the push button 1, we can call directly the lock function. Whenever getting the value of push button 2, we can directly call the value of unlock function. So they are just writing the code out of the functions. They just calling lock function, unlock function like that only. Okay. So now we have passing some parameters here. So up to now here.
So this printf statement is moved to this after swap pattern.
Yes,
That printf statement is
yes, sir.
it's cut out and after the swap this function is there.
Here, sir.
Yes.
So it's not working.
Not getting
Not
Yes, that's a
because this integer of AB is declared only for this function only.
swap is automatically after reading this instruction. It's the move to the function.
Yes, move to the functions. So what are the statements we have inside of this function that only will be executed.
Oh.
Yes. So inside of this brackets that we calculate what are the functions we have declared that only will be executed.
Does main and swap functions the same?
What one?
Main swap. Why swap function semicolon is there?
Here, no? So here we can declare the user-defined function, but in the main function is the inbuilt library functions. So for example, we are using the printf scanf, that is also an inbuilt functions, library functions. They are writing the code accordingly in the backend. So that we are using that header file of standard input output. So in this header file we can open means they are writing individual function codes for the printf and then scanf like that. So now we are using the here we can use the flash values. What are the values they mentioned the swap that is to be executed. Now we can pass in our user value, user inputs. So that we need to give the integer of a, comma, integer of b. So this is nothing but here we are going to in these places what are the values we have passed that will be taken here instead of a instead of b we can give the user input. So we can give it by the any parameters here a comma b or else you can give x comma y. So here I just getting the inputs from the user side. So user will give the input value of x and y. So using these variable values you can swap the function. Now you can just call the swap variable function and then passing two parameters or arguments. So in that function also we are getting the arguments values. So we can set like that. We can using two variable values we are able to give it. So that value, so for example, the x value going to access for the a, y value going to access for the b. So now instead of a places, the x value will be deployed, and instead of b value, y value going to be deployed. So a value gets what's the input of x value you can giving it will be entered here. We can just check this out. So I give the x value as a 10, the y value as a 20. So afterwards using the swap function, it is swapping the values as a 20, 10. So in the previously we just give the flashed values in the swap function. Now we are passing some arguments and call the values. That is called the call by values. So call by values we can directly passing the values to the functions. So the instead of even x, y, any variables you can provide it, but based on your function call. So what you write in your function, the same variables, same variable values you can give it, not like a same variable name. You can use in the any variable name. Just you can pass the values and it will be taken for these parameters. Okay.
Can we give the print and scan statements in swap?
In swap function, it's also possible. So now you can give like this means here we no need of any variables.
Okay.
Yes. So here also you are passing some variables. Afterwards, if you can asking you again use and means it is not an use of using the call by values. So instead of that we can write like we can run this, enter the x value, the value is 10, the value is 20, so it will be swap. For example, this is a function using for some additions, subtraction, multiplication you have mentioned there, and then most probably it will be checking for that in real time means for example that long contour tailgate functions. So you just try this method, you can just pass the values and then if it is accessing or not like that, you can check it. now we can see we can pass in two variables, so two argument values, a value as x, b value as y. So what are the values used into giving the automatically it's giving the return values. So we no need to write any c is equal to a plus b. Again we can print up of c. There is no like that. We can directly pass in the return values. We can do any operations using any expressions. A plus b, a multiplication of c, anything we can use it. It is directly passing the values. But here you can check here without printf. I just give you using add function of x comma y. Just I run this one. X value 10, y value 20. But here we are not getting any output. So whenever we are using the return value, we need to give the printf on main statement. Okay, so previously we are using the printf inside the function. So there is no need of using printf here. Directly we can just call the function. But here we are not using any printf, we just return the value. So that instead of this we can using the printf of printf of as d of addition calling the add function of x comma y. It's calling the argument values of a comma b, and then the values will be written. The returned value going to be printed here. Okay, so if you are using the printf inside of the function, there is no need to using the printf here. You just call the function. Others you just using the printf inside of main functions to return the values. Instead of that, we can using one more variable z. We can store z. So for the confirmation, we can take down temporary variable to store the function values. It will be useful for upcoming based on our requirements. We can use the values also. So that I am using the temporary variable of z. So z can store in the function of addition x comma y. So the value will be printed here.
This is called by reference example.
Yes.
Previous one.
Called by values. So here we can write any program. So this is the method we can easily read the main functions.
So return value is return a plus b.
And
A plus b. Or given some variable z a z. Variable a plus b to the function.
yes, function. So here I am calling the add function. So the add function passes in two values. So the two values accessing here. So instead of a b accessing the xy value. So the xy value added here and returns the value to 0. Okay. So pointers. So we are using pointers also, but the point.
I'm asking you just told this is carbon. It's not carbon. It is carbon value.
No, sir. We can call this as called the reference.
Oh, you are giving the values for it to the function.
Yes.
You are not giving the values.
We can give address also, sir.
If you give address, then only you can
Yes. So instead of that, we are passing the ampersand of a integer.
Right now it is carbon value. It is not carbon value.
We can call this also called by reference. My method said like this. But one more, the actual method is passing the address values.
Address are the possible called
Called by reference.
because now also if you print a comma b, so it will be old values like star. Suppose I give like this.
Yes.
So original values will come. It is carbon value.
Okay, I can accept this. Okay, I can accept this, but okay, we shall clarify.
No, this I'm asking you.
No, but the call by reference actual values we can pass the address. The point is what we can mention as an ampersand symbol. We can pass the address and we can doing some operations. That is what
Reference
is.
will be called by reference means it will change completely. Values.
Yes.
Carbon values means values function.
Yes, it's just passing the values only. Yes. So we have taken that the variable as a key forward. So we can take the input as a user input. So now you will set the user input as a 1 means it's going to call the raw function. So if you press the value of 2 means it's going to call the unlock function. Going to press the 3 means call the tailgate function. So here we can just take a printf statements. Okay, we don't need any values there. So calling the lock means the lock function you can write a printf as the doors are locked. So pressing the value of 2 means doors are unlocked. Pressing the value of 3 means tailgate, like that. Got my point? Here you no need to passing any values here. You don't need to write any arguments also. You just write the printf of doors are locked. Again you have created a new int unlock function. Doors are unlocked. So and then doors are tailgates are locked, like that. So initially we have added int log add. Okay, instead of we can write integer of lock function. Okay, those are locked. Same like that, you are going to create the two more functions, unlock function and the tailgate function. So in the main function, you just using only one scanner for key fob, and then remaining you can use the if else or switch case concept to call that function lock function or unlock function or tailgate function. Got my requirement? Is it fine? We don't need to passing any values here. We just calling the function. That's enough for us. So afterwards we need any values, we just passing it. So first we can do this, afterwards we can write the help of door switches also. So once you press the key for value 1 means again it's going to check the all door values. So doors are closed means the doors are locked, or else we need to check all the doors are closed or not. So based on this key fob value, you have write upon conditions like if else or switch case. You can checking it is a value of 1 means just call the lock function, value is 2 means call the one more unlock function, or value is 3 means call the tailgate functions. Outputs are lock means doors are locked, unlocked, and then tailgates are closed. So before that, don't forget to add that function declaration. So lock means lock, unlock means unlock. Key fob, we are getting the use input using the scanf. Afterwards, I am using for switch condition. So because we know that value is only 1, 2, 3, so that I am using the case 1, case 2, case A. Instead of you are using the if else conditions also. If else means you can access with the key fob is equal to 1. Else if key fob is equal to 2. Else if key fob is equal to 3. Like that you can write it. Okay. So in the end of the main function, I have write the lock function, unlock function, and then tailgate functions, printf statements. Okay. So this is one kind of requirement. So next one, now we have directly said press the 1 means the doors are locked, press the 2 means doors are unlocked. But in the real time condition, it's checking all the doors are closed or not. So whenever doors are closed, we are able to put the lock. So like that, here it acts like a solenoid valve. So all the door switches are closed, means the solenoid will be automatically locked. Okay, like our door, now it is open, we are not able to put any lock, key lock. So whenever you close this door, afterwards only we are able to put the locks. Same condition we are going to check it. The last programming here. In the last programming, we are using the door values, FL door, FR door, RR door, RR door. So that's the condition we are going to merge into this. So the last time we just directly checking all the doors are closed or not like that. So whenever calling log function, at the time we need to check all the doors are closed or not. If it is not closing, we need the output as a genuine of the doors are open there. If all the doors are closed, it means all the doors are locked like that. For example, so here I just mentioned okay. So whenever you are calling the log function, here you are writing if FL indicate of FR indicate of RL indicate of RR. If all the doors are closed, it means you give the printf statement as a doors are locked. Else quarter. Medium of the doors open like that. You can give that command. So for that here we need the value of FL, FR, RL, RR. So that the same condition we are going to check for unlock also and then take it as well. So the globally we have declared that FL and then FR, RL values. Excuse me. So we have given the values as a globally in the main function. So here we have it. So here you have get it that using again 4 scan of values for the FL values, FR values, RL values, RR values. Okay. So for that the values are you already getting. Now we need to enter to the values. So that here you can using that passing parameters int x comma int y int z int k. Okay, so we are passing these values instead of FL, FR, RL, we have taken as a x, y, z, k values. Okay. So now we are using the scanf here. So scanf values will be store the values. Here you are using the same function. So if you are using the FL, FR, RL means you are using the FL, FR, RL, RL. So now you are passing the values here. Automatically you are into accessing the into log functions. So if you give the values of 1, 2, 3, 4 like that means the values of 1, 2, 3 it will be taken and then checking the condition. So if all those are closed means those are locked, or if any of the door open means it will directly go to the else part, any of the doors are open. Okay. For the closing condition you will use the value of 1. So doors are closed means you are using the value of 1. So door closed value you can take as a 1, door opened for value you can take as a 0. So you can directly write the program for unlock. Just copy paste this one and then changing the values. Like instead of 1 here you have checked with the all the values are 1 means the final output is a 1, so the all the doors are locked. Let's say any of the doors are open. Instead of that you are using here. So all the doors are we need to lock the same values. unlock or else memory close unlock condition or else unlock memory. Okay. So whenever we are going to accessing the unlock button, so whenever you pressing the unlock button, it is directly going to check all the solenoids are closed or not. So here closed means we are using the value of 1. So 1 and get of 1 and get of 1 means finally doors are unlocked. Or else already the doors are in unlock mode. The same condition we are using for the tailgate. For tailgate means nothing but our boot space of the car. Backside we are having the boot space. That is technically we have called as a tailgate. So instead of that, you are using one more variable TG. It's just checking the TG door only. So it is not combination of lock or unlock. It is having a separate key in our key fob. The key fob having 3 buttons. One for lock, one for unlock, one for tailgate open. Okay. So in this tailgate function, you just write the if condition for TG is equal to 1. Printf you will mention as a tailgate open. Or else what you can add as a tailgate closed. Okay. So this is the actions function, sir. So now here you just adding 4 scanner or 5 scanner for door values, FR, RL, and then TG gate. So after getting the values, after the key fob values you can do the scanner, or before key fob you can do the scanner anywhere. You can give before the switch cases. Before switch cases you can using the 5 scanners for door values, 1 scanner for key fob. After based on the key fob value, you will be going to access lock or unlock value. Here also don't forget to mention FL, FR in the functions, passing the values. Okay.
For the int unlock function, there is no need of mentioning this int w, int x, int y, int z.
No. For all the functions you don't need to mention. For example, I just explained with lock. So in the unlock you are passing with the parameters int x, y, z. Same thing for that int tailgate. Here you can pass in just only one variable. The tailgate we are going to check only one variable. You can take int x. That's fine. For here you can use the int x, y, z, and then one more variable k. Anything you can use. Got the point?
Any x, y, z, one or zero. This is. How we go from this outside into the bar? How we came from this particular unlock mode?
For x, y, z. So if here I mentioned so that we are using only 0 or 1. Okay. So if more than 1 pin also logically it is like this.
If t equal to 1, we check that the same way that is not going to check the condition. If x and y and z and k.
Here we just checking only one variable.
Yes.
So that I am not using any logic applications. But here we need to checking the combination of x.
Okay.
So that we need to all the conditions are true.
Okay.
Means all the conditions are closed means we are able to get in the doors are unlocked because already door in the closed mode we are able to unlock it. Or else already your doors are in unlock mode only. You are not able to use the key fob. No need of using the key fob. So that's it. Here we don't need any more than one variable. So directly you mention the value as 1. If you are not giving the values 1 means also it will be taken because the variable value is 0 means it's directly going to else part.
Okay.
Or else the 1 or more than 1 means it is taken as the condition is true. Okay. So both ways we can access it. So one more way if you are confusing means for these values that I mentioned only 0, 1. We can directly using the data type as Boolean.
Yes.
So it is the data type of Boolean. We can mention the Boolean means if you enter the value of 10 means also it takes as only 1. Yes. If you have print the value means also if you enter the value of 10 but you print it means it is showing only 1.
Even though we are using if and statement. Greater than or means you will not.
Yes, that is also fine.
This condition.
Yes. Okay, so please check this program. This 5 minutes we can find out application structures. We can complete it and then.
Last step. Okay.
After we move to structures. Yes. So good afternoon to all. So the last program we can say for the RKE, like lock to unlock tailgate accessing using the functions and then function called by values. So here we are using the key for variable and then F1, F4 for the door values. And then one more we are using for the tailgate. So here we directly getting the access for the user input access for key fob. So based on the key fob values like 1 means lock, 2 means unlock, 3 means tailgate like that we have assumed. So when we enter the value 1, it is directly going to access the lock function. So we write the lock function here, passing 4 variables. The 4 variables will accessing for door values, FL, FR, RL, door values. So based on the values, all the doors are closed means we need to get the output as doors are locked. Or else any one of these opened means we need the output as any one of the doors are opened. So further here I am using the case one as a 4 scanner for door values. So these values are passed through lock function, that is called as a call by value. So these values are calling and then are passing to the lock function. So after entering the lock function, it's checking the condition based on the values. We will get the output as the doors are locked or opened. Same process we have execute for the case 2. The case 2 is for unlock function. So here also we can check 4 doors of combination. Based on all the doors are closed or locked means we need to open the door. So that here I write the program like doors are unlocked. If any of the doors are opened means already the doors are in unlocked mode. The final thing, the third one we have mentioned as the tailgate function. So in the tailgate function, I directly taking the values from the inside of the function. This is also not an issue. We can get it from here also. Here you can using the scanner for TG also fine. So directly I mentioned the inside of the function. So the inside of the function I am using a TG variable. The TG variable will get the tailgate door value. So based on the values will be executed as a tailgate open or tailgate closed. So just we can run this program. So in this output source it's asking about key for value. If I enter to the value 1 means it is asking for door value. So now I can view all the doors are closed. So now the doors are locked. So once again we can execute for the false statement. We can execute for the lock. So 2 doors are open, 2 doors are closed. So any of the doors are open like that. We got them false statement also. So we check it for a tailgate. So if you enter the tailgate means you will get only tailgate output. So 1 means tailgate opened. If a 0 means the tailgate closed output we will get. Okay, so this is the use of we can using the functions. So now we just read this program means it can be shown like we write the switch case formula or switch case statement to getting the function of lock, unlock, tailgate using the case values of 1, 2, and then 3. So remaining things we have mentioned in our functions. Okay. Is it fine? Thank you. So we can move to structures. Wait a minute. It is the collection of data types. In array we will see the collection of elements in the same data type, but here we are going to collect a different kind of data types. For example, integer of a array of 5 means it can storing only 1, 2, 3 like that. Only integer values only it will be able to store, not like that 1.5, 2.5 and then 3. Combination of different kind of data types is not allowed in that array. So it is array is called as a collection of elements in the same data type. So in our structures we are going to collect a different kind of data types, integer, float, character, double. So what are the data types we need? We are able to store it. For example, integer of a is equal to 10, float b is equal to 15.5, character c is equal to capital A, double value is equal to, for d is equal to, we can store 10 any values of the double values. So this is everything collected with the one variable, that is called as a structure. So we are going to use the keyword as a structure. So just to open and then close this brackets using the semicolon. So it is the syntax of structure. So collection of data types, we are going to use any data types instead of the structure. We can give one variable name. Here the variable name for us, I can give the employee. So why I am selecting the employee means for now we can give write the data for the employee codes. So the employee having that employee code, salary details, so and then contact number. For us, we can take one just 3. So the employee code maybe will come under the integer values. Salary will be different the point values also, so we can take the float. So the contact number will be there 10 digits of number, so definitely it will consider long integer. So here we are using the different 3 types of data types to store the single variable. So this, if you are going to access the employee means you will get the access of employee code, salary and then contact. So we are using this structure for different kind of variables also. So now we have 10 employees means we can separate it by here E1, E2, E3, E4, E5. Here I am taking just 5 values only. So we are going to access the employee 1 code, employee 1 salary, employee 1 contact. So secondly, you are going to access the same thing, the employee 2 of employee code, employee 2 of salary, employee 2 of contact. Which means a collection of data types you are going to accessing the different kind of variables with the help of structures. The same data types, the integer only going to the employee code accessing for all the 5 employees. The same salary data type going to access for all 5 candidates. So for the 5 candidates, we don't need to write the individual integer of employee code. Integer as a float of salary, long int of content. So instead of that, we are just reducing the code lines and we can take the help of structures. So this is also not mandatory, but we can mention it. So this structure is we can develop it for the employee purpose. Like that we can mention. But in our cases, we are going to access the what are the employee variable values only we are going to access it. For example, employee 1 dot employee code, employee 2 dot employee code, like that only we are going to access. But this structure is totally created for the employee details. Okay. So now we can just check this. Okay, but the structure we are not able to write the inside of the main function, we need to write the outside of the main functions. Okay, it is also like on the user defined library functions only. Okay, so we have created on the functions like the different kind of accessing of different kind of data types. So that's the thing. So here we are using the keyword structure. Here it is the keyword for the structure. We can give it name for that employee. So afterwards, open close brackets, we need to use the semicolon at the end of the bracket. So it is the actual syntax. So here we can add any data types. For example, integer of by code, code of salary. So on then long int. So here what are the variable names we need? For example, I can take the say E1 and then E2 and then E3. Okay. So in this we just accessing it there. First we need to enter the employee code means E1 dot employee code. So we can give the assign the values. Like for example 1, 2, 2, 3. This is the employee code for employee 1 and then the employee 1 salary is dot salary is equal to 1000.05 like that we can mention it. Contact E1 dot contact is equal to you can provide E1. The same concept we are going to accessing for that employee 2 So now the values are stored in these proper variables, which means employee 1, employee code is a 1, 2, 3, and then employee code for employee 2 is a sorry, here I changed it. E2 like that. So now we can print this. Using the same concept, for example, employee 1 you need to type means employee 1 dot employee code. So now it is printed. So now we can access this. So which means we are able to use the different kind of data types in the single variable with the help of structure. So we can add employee 1, employee 2, employee 3. So and then possible to use the for loop also for executing the statements. So individually here I mentioned only employee 1. For example, now if you are telling that 100 employee means you are not able to write individual printf for 100 employees. So on that time we can using the for loop or while loop to re-execute the same statement, printf statement for the help of ij values. E1 place instead of E1 you can mention the E of I like that. For example, E2, E1, E2, E3 is the easiest one. So now we can go enter the values for the 50 candidates or 50 employees means we need to use the for loops. So we no need to mention the values here. We just keep it the employee variable and then mention the structure. So here onwards we can write it. Write like the employee, so call the value struct employee. Struct employee. So afterwards we can using that beginning of the word E. Okay. So E we can create as an array variable. So taking this structure of employee we can create the array variable. So instead of E1, E2, E3 we can mention as a E of array. So afterwards we can using the colon, so afterwards we can using a for loop of integer of I is equal to, we can take as a 1 here, no need of any index values. So we can start with the 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So imply 1, 2, like that. So go on, so I less than or equal to 10, we can enter the values for 10 candidates. So example open 3, so afterwards we can maximum. So I plus plus. So inside of the for loop, we can using the scanf. Enter double quotes. Enter scanf of double quotes. It's t comma. So here you can answer this variable E array of I values dot. So we can mention the employee body using Amazon. Same like that. So printf so scanf double percentage f ampersand of E array of I not 7. Percentage array okay, so this is the way to we can get the user input values for employee code, employee salary, and then employee contact. So afterwards, now we can check this for our printf statement. Now we enter the user input values are right or wrong. So that again I am using one for loop. For loop, same int, we can take the k is equal to 1, k less than or equal to 3. So what shall we mention previously? K plus plus. Okay. So here we can mention the printf. So instead of E1, we can mention the array of K. Just process okay, so up to now here we have entered the user inputs. So afterwards we printed the same, the employee code 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next, what's the value we enter for that? What are the user inputs? We give it as the same thing. We check with the printf statements also. So for us easy to understand, here we can mention. Take this to 2 or 3 years. So why I am giving this case instead of percentage g? We can add here key. So why I am using K means it is mentioned like a employee 1, employee 2, employee 3, and then employee 1 code is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So instead of getting confusing, so here we are getting more confused. So what's the user input, what's the printf values? So that I am actually using one more K value. So the K is included as a 1, 2, 3. So it is comes under the employee 1 code is, and then salary is, and then contact number. Again it will be more as a employee 2 code is like that. So now we can give the employee 1 code is, salary is, contact number. So then employee 2 code is, and then employee 3 code is. So we use one more slash and means we will get the two new line. So employee 1 code and then salary, contact, and then employee 2 code and then salary, contact, and then employee 3 code and then salary and then contact number. Okay.
So whatever we give, there is a printing.
Yes. So in this printf statement, what statements we need, we can give it as a manually as per our convenience. There is nothing. We just checking the values of using the array. So with the help of array, using the e variable, we can store more employee variables. So in structure of employee, using the variable in e, we can store 3 variables, 3 employee values. So instead of 3, we can mention the size of 3, it means we can store up to 300 employee values. So we can increase the here up to 300 means it will be asking for 300 times. So then here we can enter for 300 means it will be show for 300 employees details. So it is the concept of structures. Okay. I will share this code in our group also for your reference. Please use it. Okay, as of now we have completed the basics of C programming and covered most of the topics what we have mentioned in our syllabus. We have covered. So 3 to 2:35 onwards we can start the technical part. Just this 10 minutes we can discuss about this. If you have any doubts or would like to take the topics again, means please mention the topic again. We will cover it. Structures, functions, everything we have completed. So next technical part is that we are going to check for the communication protocols. So already we have getting the introduction of the communication protocols like CAN, LIN, Flex, and then Ethernet. So now we are going to consider about the protocol of CAN network, controller area network. Okay, so this controller area network, it is going to exchange the data from the one node to another node. So the node is nothing but our electronic control units, the ECU. What we have mentioned that automotive electronics, the ECU, the electronic control units is called as a node. So we are going to transmit some data and receive some data. So the data exchanges, we need to get it from the one ECUs to another ECUs with the help of communication protocol CAN. Okay, so and it is a message based protocol. So the Ethernet is a MAC address it is forming, and then here is the message based protocol. So the message we can call as an identifier also, or else we can call as a frame also. So here the frame, message, identifier are common. We can say as a can message or can ID or can friend, like that we can call this. So and then it is developed by Bosch on 1980s mid. So commonly for the in-vehicle networking purposes only they develop the CAN protocol, the controller area network. So it is a small example. This please see this figure. That without CAN we can communicate for each node. They are all wire communication, which means one node can communicate with different wire communication for node 2 and then node 3, node 4, and then we are not able to connect it. If we need means we add the node 5 also with one more wire communication. So instead of that, it will be reducing the wire communication and easy to understand the wiring corners of the automotive ECUs and easy to clear the errors or identifying the errors inside of the data exchange. At the time of data exchange, we will face some errors like bit error, stuff error, form error, CLC error, acknowledgement error, this kind of error we will face. So that based on that, we can using this CAN protocol, we will easy to identify it very easily, analyze it. So here they are using only 2 wires. So 2 wires to communicate between all the ECUs. These ECUs are also connected with the gateways. So in the gateways, we can communicate with the different protocols like LIN, FlexRay, Ethernet. For us communication of CAN networking, we are using only 2 wires. That wires are called as CAN high and then CAN low. Okay. So
can this loads can be considered as sensor values and actuators, or only the ECUs will be considered?
No, we can consider it as a ECU. So the ECUs is nothing but like our microcontrollers collecting the data from the different kind of sensors using the digital inputs and then analog inputs. And the same controllers it's going to setting the outputs for the same digital and then analog outputs based on that our codings or based on our requirements. So same like that the ECUs also will do, but it is a configuration of automotive field like our cars, real-time data. So the real-time data is getting by the real-time sensors. It can be stored and then making the decision. So this ECU, this node will taking the decision based on the requirement. It will be sending the values to the one more node. So that is the receiver end.
So CAN has 2 ways. One is
CAN high, on another is CAN low. They can call it as a CAN high wire, CAN low wire.
Where is information being stored?
What's that?
Information stored.
The information is stored in ECUs only, so it will be getting the data. Afterwards, it will be making the decision. So based on our requirements, we will flashing some program that is called the ECU flashing. ECU programming is called the ECU flashing. Okay.
Is CAN is following serial communication parallel.
And also it's a serial communication and then it's a multi-master message oriented protocol. We can transmit any messages as well as the same time we can receive any messages.
But generally, when parallel communication is there, the performance will be more than if you go to previous level. Here, of course, terminals of the wires are there, but if any information has to be shared among node 1 and node 4, parallelly they get shared.
I think so for this communication, any one of the node as act as a master node and then remaining as act as a slave node. Correct, sir? So for in our CAN protocol, all the nodes are acted as a master node, which means it can be transmitted and received at the same time of transmit and receiving. This means node 1 and then node 2 able to transmit at the same time of message sending, which means data exchanging. I think in this without CAN we are not able to sending at the very same time. If your node 1 transmitted means
But we have only one wire there, sir.
so there is a 2-wire for the diagnostic it's showing like the ones. So it is called as a 2-wire communication. For that I have an example visualization of that. Okay. So and it is called as a multi-master message oriented protocol for transmitting messages and receiving messages. So that is called as a TX node and then RX node. We can call as a transmitter and then receiver. So we can transmit from any nodes and then receive by also any node. It for example in this node 1 can transmit the values means it is able to receive by node 2, node 3, node 4, node 5 at any time. So there is no restrictions to receive by it is able to receive only one receiver. It can be received by any nodes. If you can connect more than nodes also, the campus it is able to receive it. So on this, the specification is that it is a two types of CAN formats available. CAN format means nothing but the CAN frame, the CAN message says it is a 11-bit identifier and then 29-bit identifier. So that is called as CAN standard format and then CAN extended format. So the CAN standard format is an 11-bit identifier, CAN extended format is an 29-bit identifier. So where we can use this identifier means for the arbitration session. So we are having the CAN arbitration topics also. At the time I will explain the concept of these identifiers. Okay. So commonly I can say this is a standard CAN format we can use it for the vehicles like a car, this kind of vehicles. For the heavy vehicles they are mostly using the extended format.
What is the meaning of identifier here?
Like a CAN message.
Generally,
A message ID. For example, we can mention the ECU. Now ECU can mean the ECU has a different kind of values for the getting from sensors.
and suppose if you take C programming language, there also a direct identifier concept.
There are also.
Identifier concept is there.
Yes.
Whether both the things are same.
Yes, nearly both are same. So we are going to just given one ID number for that message. But they are given the restrictions about up to 11-bit identifier, which means we are able to give the value of 0 to 2047. We are able to give the ID number as 0 to 2047, which means a range of 0 to the ending range of 2047, the power of 2 to the power 11. Okay. For your understanding, the next topic is the identifier concept only, and then you will get the clearance. Okay. So this extended format is a 29-bit identifier. Whenever using this extended format, it is mostly useful for the heavy vehicles like trucks, tractors, these kind of things, because it's carrying more messages like it is nearly 3 types of gears: the load gear and then transmission gear, these kind of things, and then it's carrying more sensor communications. Nowadays, trucks are having more sensor communications. For that, I am having one example also. It's 15,000 signals available inside of that vehicle. For that also, I am having a database. Later I will show you it. Okay. So for that kind of things, we definitely need to use the extended format. For our cars, the 2047 IDs more than enough to getting the value. So that they prefer the standard format for automotive electronics in car.
Sir, earlier before CAN is a microcontroller, right?
Okay. Yes.
So is it available in any kind of Arduino? The Arduino is a controller, right? It's a board.
Yes.
So can you find a CAN protocol there? CAN type of structure or any?
So here now we can connect the Arduino with the CAN module only, sir.
Very small one.
Yes, the small is called as a MCP2515.
That is CAN.
CAN module. That is a CAN module.
This one.
Yeah, this one. So this is our microcontroller. Along with this a CAN processor. MCP2515.
Atmega peak controller is supposed to be Arduino.
It is Arduino.
That is Arduino board.
Yes,
It's not a controller. Arduino is a board.
It was controller.
Inside it
Also, it's Atmega 30. Atmega.
Atmega 2560.
The controller.
Actually, you are not that 2560. It's two boards are using in our
కంప్యూటర్ అనలే మాడిన ఒక డెవలప్మెంట్ బోర్డ్ అది
Board అంతే. It's not a controller.
కంట్రోలర్ ఒకటే
Another
కంట్రోలర్ అలాగే అదన పెన్సర్
controller is one of the part on the board. So
Okay.
now this is CAN module.
Yes, we have communicated with the CAN module. We are using to transmit the data using these two wires. It is a CAN two wires, what I mentioned, CAN high and CAN low.
Okay.
Okay, so based on that volt values, that's the voltage level, that what's the high value, low value, I will mention the upcoming slides.
So CAN module is again connected to the controller.
Yes, controller.
Controller only it will try to communicate it. Okay.
So if controller I can see there is something you want I use that comes into.
సో దీస్ టూ వైర్స్ కనెక్టెడ్ టు విచ్ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద
So another ECU. So here another controllers. Okay.
సో క్యాన్ టూ వైర్ క్యాన్ టు ECU మెనీ వైర్స్
No.
The CAN to
Consider this as a one ECU.
that
This
is-
microcontroller is
yeah.
This microcontroller is another ECU.
ఓకే
Communicating CAN to CAN. This controller communicating with controller using CAN to state pair of cables.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So node to node communicating with CAN.
modules will interconnect.
specific controller, right?
Yes, sir. Actually, this CAN module is looking like our CAN ECU, our real-time ECU. We can transmit from the only 2 wires for data. Now this ECU will be able to transmit different kind of values. So the values we need to receive it, or this value need to transmit here means we need to have one communication. For the communication purpose, we are using the CAN protocol. This is a CAN module. That is a CAN MCP 2515.
It's a small one.
Yes, the small one is the model of CAN. That name is the MCP 2515.
Like you mentioned like CAN high, CAN sensors. Is there any
ECU connect చేయడానికి CAN high, CAN low wires use
This
చేస్తాం.
is CAN high, this is CAN low. 2 wires. One wire is CAN high, another
what
wire
does
is
this mean?
Or maybe it's a transmitter receiver.
Yes, that
Yes,
is
1 0. CAN high is 1, CAN
After
low
2
0.
to 3 steps, you will get some confirmation because just now I started with CAN. I will explain what is the dominant recessive.
If that board is not there,
okay.
can these two communicate?
Not possible.
No, small one is not there.
This is just communication, sir.
Assume you have only CAN module.
Okay.
Another one also CAN module.
Okay.
Is communications possible from that one?
Is possible, sir, but which data will be transmitted to this controller?
Sir,
If some data is there only, we can communicate, right?
Sir, just asking one Arduino with 2 MCP only.
There is no audio. No, sir. We are only correct. There is no audio.
Okay.
There are two.
So just 2 MCP only. It's not possible, sir.
It's a microcontroller.
Then what is the necessity of that controller?
Sir, this the controller is teaching that.
No, what is the process of CAN module? What is the
Sir,
process?
this control is like brain, sir.
Okay, wait. Let them.
Okay.
Sir, this controller is like brain, sir. If we have some data means I can transfer to you, right, sir?
Yes.
This is like communication, sir. We are speaking brain. We are speaking only how can we transfer the data. I have something means only I can transfer the data, right? That is
what I
what
was
I
saying.
saying.
Whether this CAN module is connected to the controller or not. That is
Yeah.
major
Yes, sir. That is the
communication.
communication.
So, suppose if you want to sense the data, where the sensors to be placed?
From the controller.
Here the pins we can add it here for the transfer.
Vijay,
This is the option for CAN.
wait, sir.
Audio board is there. We have interface with the different types of sensors.
This is
I'm good at this.
This is the microcontroller. This is the microcontroller. And we have CAN transceiver.
1.5. Okay, sir. This host only will be transmitting some values. So we're using some 2 CAN wires. So that is the 2 CAN wires. Here we just connect only 2 nodes. But we are able to connect more than 2 also. It is possible. Okay, so we have connect the value. We can. If someone is host means it is able to receive it. These are also able to receive. At the same time, it is also able to transmit the values. It is also able to receive with the other clients. So here the communication access and CAN protocol, it allows you to receive the values at the any time from the any transmitters or any receivers. So that is the concept. This is a multi-master message oriented protocol. Whatever we need to send it with the help of message that is mentioned, I mentioned identifier. With the help of identifier, we are able to transmit any values from the one node to another node.
Sir, it's like it's a broadcast sector. Our line లో అన్ని ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఉంటుంది. అందరికి ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఉంటుంది. బట్ రెస్పెక్ట్ టు అవర్ పేషెంట్ ఐడి ఆర్ రెస్పెక్ట్ టు నోడ్ యాక్సెస్. ఇప్పుడు మన ఎదురులో సెన్సర్ అంటే సెన్సర్ అంటే రెస్పాన్స్ బట్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఇస్ పాస్ టు ఎవ్రీబడి. ఆ లైన్ లో కూడా ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ మొత్తం అన్ని నోడ్స్ ఉంటుంది. బట్ బేస్డ్ ఐడి ఆ పర్టికులర్ నోడే యాక్ట్ చేస్తుంది.
Are we doing any code of CAN controller? Like,
Yes, sir, we will definitely write the code using the help of Arduino platform. So we can dump the code and we can getting some transmitting signal values or any values, analog or sensor values, any values we can take the help of Arduino platform. We can dump it and then we can transmit the values and then we can receive by another one.
In real time ECUs, which type of controllers can be used?
So now that control, we can't say that that is a controller, that is an electronic controlling devices, some rectangular say box like that, which means it is allocated with more controllers. Okay, we are not able to, which means up to now I don't have the knowledge about what are the components available in that ECU. Okay,
How
so
many
but the
bits,
thing is not like our Arduinos and then ESP and then STM, that is not like that. That is for sure I don't know.
How many bits?
that bit range.
Bit range.
That bit range we can define with our CAN protocol because that ECU allocated with some of the what we mentioned the microcontrollers with along with the CAN MCP also, which means here I have mentioned CAN MCP and then they mentioned CAN MCP high-end configurations processors also available. Based on that we can set the bits. Here the bits are common bit only 11 bit. That is what I mentioned. So before going to that, we can take a database. So that database only going to play a major role in the inside of the
But CAN is having only two words, high and low.
Yes.
So I think high indicates either 1 or 0, low
Yes.
indicates 0 or 1. So if
No,
MC,
It's not higher and low. Can higher give value, lower give value. Difference of those two values will give a message to the.
No, sir. Just now for the knowledge, just saying high means value 1, low means value 0. But not
It's not a digital value.
No, sir. Just they understand like high means 1, low means 0 like that.
okay. So through that wire, how many bits we can transfer?
How many bits? Yes, sir. Standard CAN means we can transmit up to 11 bit. So extended CAN means we can transmit up to 29 bits.
Oh.
Okay.
So only using two wires, so we can transfer those many bits.
Yes.
That means each message will have, suppose let us say it is high input. It is represented in terms of revenue itself.
No, sir.
Suppose the message is high, can is high.
Sir, so don't conclude the value as a high means 1.
Whatever it is,
I think just I will cover this topics afterwards. I think we will discuss.
Okay.
That's a better thing. Because just intro slide we are
Okay,
not
okay.
discussing up to end.
Okay, sir.
So the next one is the CAN frame format. So initially I said the CAN is a communication protocol. The protocol is having one format. So we need to follow the one format as per the way we need to create the CAN message and then sending the signal values for transmitter and then receiver side. So here CAN frame means nothing but I already mentioned the CAN message. So the CAN ID. So the one ECU having nearly 10 messages or 12 messages we can say for example. So for each messages having one ID like ID number 1, ID number 2, ID number 3. So on each messages we are able to store up to 8 byte values. Okay, that is the concept. So each messages we are able to store up to 8 bytes of range, which means 8 bytes. 8 bytes.
The 64 bit.
It's a 64 bit.
So at a time we can transfer 64 bits.
For each message, we can able to store 64 bits.
Each message.
Each message. So
We can say this as a message.
yes, this is entering called as a message. So how we can create the message using this standard format? So I will explain this each and every frame now. So initially now we have connected one CAN node, two CAN nodes are like our two CAN nodes are connected. So now need to transmit one message means we need to follow this. We have to create one message, the CAN message ID, DLC and then CAN data bytes. They can call it as a data length code. For the data length code we can separate up with a data byte. Okay. So first one we can start with the SOF. SOF means nothing but the start of frame. We need to start the message. So that is the identifier. We will take the 1 bit or 7 bits of value. And then the second one is the identifier. So this identifier is called as an arbitration field. So arbitration means nothing but now you can send in the message number 1 and the message number 2 at the same timing. So and then we need to give the priority. So who will get the first priority? So that is called as an arbitration. So arbitration is called as a priority field for the different messages. So the same time we are sending the 5 messages and it is able to sending allowed to only 1 message. So who will get the priority? So the decision will take the arbitration field. So this identifier plays only we are going to execute the 11-bit identifier. So here the standard format I mentioned the 11-bit identifier. So this identifier name we are able to give up to 11 bits. So 11 bit means nothing but 2 for 11. So it starts from 0 to 2047. Here you can give the name as a 12 456 500 up to 2047. Which means 2047 messages we are able to transmit by the standard CAN format.
What
So-
is the significance of startup frame?
So so based on this data frame only, it will be sending the message from one node to another node.
So there should be some number of bits.
Yes,
If
bits.
one-
It
it
is
is
allocated
for
7 bit. It is allocated with 7 bits.
7 bits.
7 bits.
If all are ones, what it indicates?
No, that is based on the arbitration. The arbitration filter and give you only one message now. So, for example, if you
Exactly for our alert which will, for example, to start the conversion, they look for the start of frame. I hope.
yes.
Yeah, but they have allocated for 7 bits.
Yes.
SOF.
This is for just to initiate this process.
1 bit.
So, start of frame is a 1 bit, end of frame is a
Just to start the conversion.
So, start of frame is 1 bit, end of frame is a
Start the conversion.
yes. Okay. So, in this identifier, they will go for the R as a remote transmission request. Okay.
So
So,
this data transfer to a serial or
the serial.
serial yes. Okay.
Yes. So it is called as an arbitration field. Here we can set the identifier values. So the RTR, the remote to request concept, we are not working it because it is for the UDS purposes, diagnostic purposes only. They are using some request values, response values. So here we are going to just work with the identifier field. Afterwards, it is the extension bit, which means identifier extension bit. So identifier extension bit is called as it is just like a 1 bit. We are able to increase the values like 2048 up to we are increase the values 2048 for some of the UDS purposes. This RPR, IE, the reserved bits are working for the UDS purposes. They are having only 21 services ID. On the time it will be text part. Just now we can focusing on identifier, DLC, and then data frame. Okay. So then DLC is nothing but data length code. So based on this data length code, we are able to store the messages of the CAN standard frame. For example, this data length code is able to store up to 8 bytes. Okay, like the 64 bits. But you are setting the, for example, identifier number 10, we can set as only 5 bytes means we are able to store the data as up to 5 bytes only. But the maximum possibilities, we are having up to 8 bytes. If you are working with the extended CAN, means you are able to store up to 64 bytes. Okay, that is the advantage of using the extended format. So, what are the DLC we have mentioned? Based on that, we can store the data from 0 to 64 bits. We can store the data. So, afterwards, it is the CRC field, cyclic redundancy check field. So, it is checking that both the transmitter and then receiver and then acknowledgement also. So, this is called the cyclic redundancy check. Delim is nothing but delimiter. So, the value is on the sequence field is accessing means it is moving along with the help of delimiter gives the one flag values. So there is no error in the CRC field and there is no error in the acknowledgement field. Okay, so ACK stands for the acknowledgement. So the acknowledgement also having one delimiter. After that, the entire frame will be executed. Okay. So just to know the concept of identifier DLC. So identifier for CAN message ID. So on each ID is able to store 8 bytes of value. So based on the byte value we can say we can show the data frame. So this is enough now. So in the upcoming slide it will be.
What is Day3?
So it is the applications of SY, 40 or
Nothing.
ఒక మెసేజ్ తో మెసేజ్ మధ్యలో ఇట్ మస్ట్ బి లైక్ సెపరేట్ బిట్ సెపరేట్.
Yeah. So this is the bit range for that starter frame as a 1 bit identifier for we can store up to 11 bits. So RTR we have 1 bit say extension 1 bit is going to be as a 1 bit. So this RTR IDE these are not now we are using. So DLC is they mentioned 4 but we are able to use up to 8. So it is the past data they are mentioning wrong. But here you can see the data bit 0 to 64 bits we are able to see. So we need to use the 8 bytes. Okay. So and then CRC is 16 bits, acknowledgement field having the 2 bits of values, end of the frame having the 7 bits of values. Okay. So in this identifier length we are able to set the 11 bits. So in this it is commonly called as a CAN 2.0A.
This identifier is fixed for
11 bits. Standard frame is 11 bits. So how we can design this means we are using the vector CAN DB database tool. So on the tool we are going to set it like it is a standard frame or extended frame. Because now we have the standard also, extended also. But we are going to take the help of vector can DP, we will set the value, it is a standard frame or it is a extended frame. We have the explanation of tool, I will show you that. So for example, we can mention the IDs 1, 2, 3. Here what our common thing means we need to mention ID number as a hexadecimal. So definitely we need to use the 0x concept. So 0x 1 to 3 like that only we are able to use it. So external CAN means nothing but it is a CAN 2.0b. So it is a 29-bit identifier. It is suitable for the large data spaces and then mostly for the heavy vehicles. So the heavy vehicles identifiers are called as 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 5 like that. It is more than 4 digits. 4 digits of the identifier numbers. So and then CAN is a O is a layer structure. So it's a baud having the speed of up to 1 MB per second for classical CAN. Classical CAN means our standard frame. So and then 5 MB per second for extended frame, which means CAN FD. Yes. So we can transmit the value from 125 kbps to 1 Mbps for standard CAN frame and then 5 Mbps for CAN FD frame, which means extended frames. So and then cable length we are using up to 500 meters at the use of 125 kilobits. For 40 meters we get able to use 1 MB per second. So and then it is having the 120 ohm resistor termination at the both end of CAN communications. So that is the major thing. We can definitely want a 120 ohm termination at each end of the CAN communications. So in this OSA layer, the data link is only accessing the CAN supplies of LLC, logic link control, and then MAC address, media access control, and then physical coding. So this place is only carrying the CAN communication layers. So on that media access control is for Ethernet. So and then CAN also we can using the logical link controls. Here only we can access the flux ray, Ethernet, these kind of things. So and then it is already mentioned it is a two-wire communication, CAN high and then CAN low. So it is a small example for that. We can connect the 3 nodes along with just 2 wires. The ECU will give the final 2 wires will be communicated with the CAN inter-networking protocol, which will enter with the 120 ohm termination of each end of CAN communications. So it is 120 ohm. Yes, 120 ohm resistors for the CAN termination. So CAN high line and then CAN low line. So here it is we are having that voltage level of CAN high and then CAN low. So it is commonly recessive and then dominant bit we are having. So here the dominant only having the high priority. So we have 2 modes, dominant and then recessive. So recessive means CAN high, dominance means CAN low. So for example, dominance means the value is 0. Recessive means the value is 1. So whatever values we have entered here, it will be converted to the binary conversions. So based on the binary conversion, it will do the AND logic and it will get the priorities. So here the values we can see that CAN high values goes from 2.5 volt to 3.75 volt and then CAN low values will go for the 2.5 volt to 1.25 volt. Okay. So now one more step is called the CAN bus off step. So whenever the CAN ECUs are turned off, means that always the CAN bus module will go for the 2.5 volt on each wires. So say
choice highest priority.
Dominant. So CAN low having the highest priority.
Sir, basically CAN IDs, low ID, high priority.
Yes. So that arbitration field I mentioned
The user not defined this is important, it's not clear.
so
This is why we identify this is immediately we need
that is based on the safety purposes features.
for example, this emergency numbers is for highest priority.
Yes, sir. So
same point anything is already
no, sir. Initially, we have created this CAN IDs based on the safety purpose. For example, CAN engine control units, or then door safety purposes. So these are the messages they will allocate with the very less number of values, like 10, 12, like that.
Okay.
So for the additional features like premium features, we have mentioned that infotainment is not a mandatory thing, but it is one of the premium feature of our car. So for the purpose, they will mention as ID number 1020, 1025 like that. So whenever it's running, compared to checking with that, the airbags and the transmission only ECUs only will get the first priority. So this is the dominant mentioned as the logical 0 and then recessive mentioned as the logical 1. So the dominant bit only having the high priority, which means the 0 only having the high priority in this CAN protocol. So how we can declare this means based on bus arbitration. Yes. So this is called as the bus arbitration. So now we are having the 3 CAN IDs. So ID number 7F3, ID number 6B3, ID number 6D9. So now we need a CAN arbitration who will get the first priority. So first that the backend will be converted all the values in the binary form. It starts with the MSB bit, most significant bit. So now here all the bits are having the values 1. So it is going like a value of 1. So afterwards also second one also second bit also 1. The third one 0x6b3 get the arbitration and then 0x69 get the arbitration. Which means both are also 0 and then 0 values. Now both are getting the arbitrations, but we need only 1. So that again it's starting the arbitration for 1 1. So again it is getting the 6b3 and the first 0. So 6 ID number. Sorry, 6D9 having the value of 0. So finally 6D9 getting the first arbitration, which means it will get the first priority. Highest priority. So for example, we have the ABS ECU. So the ABS ECU
the 3 has to get the first priority. We need the first ID, lower ID, and the D9.
0, 1.
This way only
It's big.
Node 2. Node based highest priority. Maybe it's a 0.
Yes.
Because node 3
No.
was the first is started, the first is high.
Sorry.
Node 2,
This one.
this one is yes.
Yeah. Just look at
Usually slow, it's the check for the yes.
yes.
మెసేజ్ ఒకటే
So I just extended one.
సో ఏ బస్సు ఒకటి మెసేజ్ సో 3 బస్సులో కంపేర్ చేసుకుంటే ఆ
So that 6B39 gets
First
the
A is
arbitration.
available.
So how is it means that ABS we have different kind of
నోట్ టు నోట్
in ABS we have different kind of features. So on that we have mentioned some of the particular safety purpose features, the braking systems or actuation systems are committed with the 6B3 message ID. Some of the other expensive are not needed for safety purpose. Additional features are mentioned as high values like 7F3. So on the next intermediate features we have controlled the 6D9. So on that whenever we need the safety purpose, immediately we can give the one acceleration or braking system in. Immediately 6B3 will giving the data from the one ECU to another ECU. So this is the priority based in the CAN protocol. That is called as a CAN bus arbitration. So on the high speed CAN is up to 1 Mbps and the low speed CAN is 10 to 125 kbps and then a twisted band wiring terminating resistor for noise immunity. So that terminating resistor we are using for 120 ohm. That is for that they mentioned application as a noise immunity. So and then supports longer communication distance also. If you are using that 1 MB per second speed data for the longer wire communication also. So that I mentioned in our Mahindra and Mahindra electric vehicle and the 2.5 kilometer wire communication.
So on the second model, how much data transfer is that? Stream maybe.
Yes, sir, here also we can set up to 1 MB per second.
Oh. But it's not dependent on the
Not
dependent because it's a
It's communication based on this MCP only. Okay, so here also we are able to set the value as 1 MB per seconds. So in our coding data, the data also will mention set bit rate, set aspect frequency, that range also. So in this CAN frames have different types of frame: remote frame, data frame, error frame, and then overload frame. So the data frame is just now we have discussed it. It will be sending some data from one ECU to another ECU. That is called the data frame. So the remote frame is used for we can communicate with that client, which means client means our UDS tool. So the UDS tools are called as a client. So the client sending some value, that is called as the remote frame. We have occurred some errors, that is already mentioned, the bit error stuff. These are the error frames comes under error frame. Overload frame is the injection of a delay between the one ECU to another ECU. That is the data communication. From data communication delay between the one ECU to another ECUs. So and then the error prediction and then handling. So we are able to easily find the error, and then based on the error, automatically the ECU will be going to bus off state. So it will not affect any other ECUs. It is only just a turn off their ECUs only. For example, ABS getting error state or engine getting error state means if just a turn off the ABS ECU and then just a turn off the engine ECUs only, it will not affect any other ECUs like power steering or any infotainment. This kind of the ECUs it will not affect. Once it getting the bus off state, it will be sending the flag also, error flag. So we are not able to receiving any data, not able to sending any data from ABS node side and the engine node side like that. It will be sending the error flag. So then error states having some different types: active error, passive error, bus off state. So I mentioned that ECU will be automatically bus off state. So based on that error counter, the TEC means nothing but transmit error counter, REC means nothing but receiver error counter. So based on transmitter side error, it will be less than 127 means it is called as an active error. So from receiver side and transmitter side, the count is less than 127 means it is like an active error. So if the count is greater than 127 means it is a passive error. If the transmit side only alone greater than 250 means automatically it is turn off the ECU. So which side we will get the more errors. For example, ABS is showing the more than 255 error.